All right. Good afternoon. So the YouTube stream takes a few minutes from when I hit start streaming until it actually begins. So I guess the secret of the pros is to get in there nice and early. So I will work on that. Now, let's see. We've got Character Creator 4 open. We're going to need that today. And we've got iClone open as well. I think I want to start by showing you the finished product of what we did yesterday. And I'm gonna take a moment to load that now because some of you might be getting a little bit of an ad at the beginning here. So let's see. Okay. So I want to show you what the finished product was for what we worked on in the last stream. And I added a little something to it, some final touches right after we were done, but where is it? There we go. Let's find it here. I thought I had this ready, but I did not put it in the right folder. Here we go. All right, so that is the scene that we built last time, and the part that we worked on was everything that's in the foreground here up to the fence, and then I just put like a sample there. So to explain, we're actually, this is a weird, trippy thing, but basically we're actually using the stream, these first few streams here, to build out the infrastructure for things that are going to be used for the stream. Let me explain. So, having watched quite a bit of streaming and just, you know, paying attention to things, there's some elements that I like on the more polished streams, which are, there's some kind of an intro screen, and typically it's there's some animation or movement in it, which is nice. There is an end screen for the stream as well, and again, usually it could be a still image or it could be looped video. And then there's two types of things that might possibly be used in the middle of the stream. One would be if for some reason I need to go on a break. But you can't just cut off the stream or that would kick everybody out, right? And, you know, you don't want to do that. But you don't want to just have just your desktop just sitting there with no movement and no talking and nothing. So, some kind of a screen to show that you're on a break. And then the fourth one is not common to all streams, but it's this one that we worked on here, and this is a privacy screen. And the places where I've seen this used would be if there was going to be something on screen that might set off YouTube's censoring, which can get you flagged and, you know, get you in all sorts of trouble, even sometimes for silly stuff. And the other would be if there's a privacy issue. That's less of an issue on our stream here, but like if you've ever watched Kit Boga or any of the guys who do, the people who do scam baiting stuff, where they're baiting these scam call centers and all that, sometimes they have to, during their live streaming, they have to show something on the screen, or there's something on the screen that they don't want you to see. And so there's some other image that will pop up and cover up the privacy part. I'm not as concerned about that because we don't really deal with that kind of content here. But In Character Creator 4, sometimes when you first open up a character, they're not clothed at all. And while these figures are cartoonish, they're not completely realistic. And they're missing certain elements that normal people have. So it's not full on, simulation of nakedness. However, I don't want to take any chances, because when you get flagged by YouTube for something like that, the appeal process is not always timely, and there's no guarantee of a good outcome. It's kind of notorious for that. So as such, I just don't want to take any chances. I've had this channel for 15 years now, and would hate to, through stupidity, end up in a situation where that's jeopardized. So that's why we created this. We started with the privacy screen here, and essentially this is, let me show you the one that doesn't have the background that I put in there. That's going to be this one. Okay, so you can see the areas where the transparency is going to be. And basically, I'll use this in OBS, which is the software that I use to manage what's going on the screen for the stream. I'll be able to just click a button and pop this up, and it's at least a reasonable way to partially mask what's on the screen. But you can still kind of see what's going on back there. So that was the idea. And basically, my general thought with all four of these little screens or interludes or whatever you want to call them, my thinking was, why not, I could just go and grab an image or do something in an image editor and make a still and be done with it and whatever. Or I could hire somebody and have them do something really pretty. But why not go ahead and build these out with the very tools that I use for Machinima? That will guarantee that, first of all, that they're original. It'll be personalized because it will, it'll be thematically relevant. Does that make sense? So we're just basically going to spend a couple of the streams here building out that infrastructure, and then I'll be able to, implement it into OBS to make it officially a part of the stream. That's the long and short of it here. So, the one that we're going to work on now is the intro screen. So, the idea that I've got for this is a Commodore 64 computer situated in a scene, in a nice looking scene with some layers to it, and maybe a room and a window when there's a sky in the background. But the computer, the computer screen will be enough in the foreground to where that's going to be a still image, essentially. And then I'm going to overlay on top of that an actual screen from, what is that thing called? From an emulator for the Commodore 64. Let me see. I guess I haven't run it since I rebuilt this computer. But basically, you can emulate the actual... Okay, I don't want to update right now. I don't want to update right now, doggone it. Okay. So, an actual Commodore 64 screen. And basically, I'm going to 3D transform it to fit right where the screen of the computer is in our scene. And then I'm actually going to write it's going to be like a opening credits, so to speak, but it's more of an opening agenda. So basically, whatever's going to be on that day's stream is going to appear. It's going to actually be a Commodore 64 BASIC program that will run and display that live. Because Commodore 64 is what I cut my teeth on, really. I had one of those in middle school and then into high school. We never had a PC at home, actually. The first time I came into contact with a PC, like where I had regular access to it, not just at a friend's house or something, was when I got to college. So C64 is where I cut my teeth. I learned to program in BASIC when I was like in 3rd grade or something, because they had 2 Apple IICs at my little elementary school. So that's where I got started with coding and with experimenting with computers, and the whole C64 vibe is just what I was growing on. So I thought, well, why not? Why not then actually make it a BASIC program? Because the basic language, if you're not familiar, is just really it's very readable plain text. And basically, I'll be able to edit that source code to just simply update the agenda of here's what we'll be working on today. And this serves as an intro screen, like kind of leading up into the stream and right at the very beginning. And it will just play that as a loop. It's going to alternate between the agenda and then an ASCII art piece that's going to fill up the screen after that. So, yeah, and then all I'll have to do, once that initial build out of the basic code is done and tested and all that, then all I'll have to do is go in and just update the text that has to do with the agenda. A couple lines of text, pop it into the emulator, run it, and then it'll overlay on OBS on that and show up on that computer screen. And then the theme music, I'm going to compose using the actual SID chip sounds of C64. So, it's not really, like, we don't do C64 programming on this stream or on my channel or anything like that, but it's more of a personalized homage to my roots. Okay? So, that's the big picture on this. We're going to close that and this. Don't need to register right now. Okay. So, to do this, I had already brought in a prop, which is the computer. Let me just locate it. Okay, I can't remember where I filed it. I'm getting old. Let's see if I named it C64. I didn't. Maybe Commodore? There we go. Alright, so we've got a Commodore 64. It's the full thing with peripherals and everything. So we've got that prop already, and I'll probably just leave the peripherals as is and just angle it to where I can't see how it's got the cords laying there that are unplugged. But if I angle this shot right, it's going to be fairly close up. Then I'll never see those cords, so I'm not real worried about them. So something like this is going to end up being the way we crop it. I like the idea of the 1541 drive, floppy disk drive there. I've got a couple other little props that we will look for a place to lay on the desk to kind of fill it out with just a little bit of clutter. I've got a desk, and then I've got a room to situate all of this in. So that's what we're going to build out today. So first things first is I need to bring in the props. So let's just... I got those on another computer, so We're bringing them in with Dropbox. We'll let those load in real quick, and let's get this one out of the way. And we are in Character Creator 4 right now. Even though it's, you know, it's a character creator, but okay, so back in the day, iClone, which is the animation software that brings everything together, there used to be a separate component called 3D Exchange. It was pretty revolutionary when it came out because basically it was a program that was specifically designed for bringing in models from other sources and making them ready to use in iClone. Well, over the years, actually I think it's as of iClone 7 or maybe only just as of iClone 8 here, the functionality of that is incorporated into these programs. It's not a separate piece anymore, which is really handy. So that means that Character Creator 4 is where we can bring in models for props and things like that. So that's what we're going to do. So let's start with the simple stuff. We've got, let's see, what do we got here? We have, let me just show you what's going on here. So we've got, we'll just extract that here. We've got an FBX model of a 5 1/4 inch floppy disk. Doesn't look like the textures are embedded. That's pretty small. So and the textures are separate files here. So all we do is just click and drag that in to Character Creator 4, and we inform it that it's a prop. Because you could, if it's an FBX file, it could be a character model that you're bringing in. We're bringing in props right now. Contains 2 meshes. Would you like to break up the meshes into subprops? For a floppy disk, I don't see any plus to doing that. We're going to say no. Now, I don't see it anywhere, so we're going to hit home. There we go. All right, so there's the front and the back. It's even got the little notch. This is the... I hope I'm remembering this right. I believe it's that if this notch is covered, then the disk is... Yeah. When the notch is covered, the disk is read-only. You can't write to it. So like if you were to buy a commercial game or piece of software, very often that disk wouldn't have this notch. It would just be full. When you buy blank floppies, it would have the notch, and you had this little piece of tape that you could put over it to make the disk, to prevent writing to the disk further once you had it set the way you wanted. These were actually floppy. This thing's 5 1/4 inches on a side. I don't know what that comes to in centimeters, but they're bigger than, you may have seen floppy disks that are like 3.5 inches, and they're rigid, fairly rigid. Plastic. This was very actually floppy. It's where the term came from. There was actually a bigger size than this that never really got very popular, but there was an 8-inch floppy disk. So let's bring in some textures here. We're going to go back to that models folder, and let's just go to the texture folder. Okay, so it looks like we've got a basic color texture here, and we've got a normal map and roughness map and metallic. So this is a PBR texture, which is the default when you bring in a new prop. So I'm just going to drag these into their appropriate slots. So that's the base color. Looks pretty nice. We don't seem to need an opacity layer, which is a little surprising. But I guess it's that the model already has this hole carved out. So there is no texture that ever gets applied here. That's why we don't need an opacity map. Opacity map would regulate, which parts of the model are see-through or translucent or that kind of thing. Okay, then we've got the metallic texture and the roughness texture. Those both have to do with kind of the shininess versus dullness of different parts. And typically, wow, look at that detail. How much of that's the texture itself and how much is the... That's probably a combination of the texture itself and the roughness and metallic maps to give it this kind of a worn look. There's even fingerprints on the disc. Wow. Really nicely done. You didn't want to generally get fingerprints on the disc. That's the actual part where the data is, and the rest of it's the protective shell. Very cool amount of detail there. And then we've got a bump map or normal map. And that just basically, there's not much going on in the bump map here, you can see, but it basically just gives it a little bit of, it's probably most helpful right around where the label is, makes it look like it's raised a little bit. Okay. So that's good. Now, when we use this in our scene, we're going to retexture this part right here. And actually, let's look in our image editor and just see how easy that's going to be to edit. Hopefully the orientation is nice and... Okay, good. So yeah, I can create a custom label and put this on there, and I'm probably just going to make it look like kind of a homemade label and hand write something on it, like in Sharpie or whatever. It definitely doesn't... We definitely don't want it to be an IBM label. That wouldn't make any sense sitting next to a Commodore 64. But yeah, so we're not going to do that today. I'm going to go ahead and save the prop as it is, and we'll call it an IBM disk. Let's see. Yeah, there we go. Nice and close-up shot of it here. Let's name it. I don't like using that fraction character. That's an unusual character, so we're going to call it a 5.25 inch. We're going to call it an IBM 5.25 inch floppy disk. And then we're just going to save it into props. 5.25 inch floppy disk. Cool. We got it. So yeah, before I go to render the final scene, I'll go in, I'll have to... Basically, if we place this in the scene, I'll have to go in and, from iClone, reopen it again here in Character Creator, and then use that function that I used a moment ago to open up in my image editor, and change that, and then put it back. Probably instead what I'll do is I'll come here first to Character Creator and create the new version of this and save it as a separate prop, then go back to the scene, drag this one in, replace it that way. But for today, this is going to work just fine. All right, so that's one prop down. We've got our wooden desk here. We'll just unzip that right here, and let's see what's in there. All right, same thing, FBX with some PBR textures. So let's drag this in and call it a prop. Contains 7 meshes. I'm going to say yes on this because it could be that having those be separate meshes might help us with things like opening drawers or moving the drawer handles. Not really sure where the separations exist, but that could be handy. So we're going to go ahead and say yes. Let's hit home. And there we go. Whoop. There we go. Kind of looks like there's a little bit of texture Z-fighting on the front of this desk, doesn't there? That's something to keep an eye on. I mean, for this video, we're not going to care about the front of the desk. It's just going to be the desktop, basically. It's going to, just barely be visible like that. So it won't be visible, but yeah, there's some weirdness going on there. I'm not sure if that's just a strangeness with the lighting, or maybe it's a very high detail texture or model, and so it's flashing like that, but that's a little bit concerning. Let's get some textures in here and see what it looks like at this point. We're going to call this Antique Desk. All right, we've got several meshes here. But we've only got one set of textures. So that means that these should apply to all of these meshes. So what we can do is, rather than have to do these one at a time, we can select, shift and select all the meshes here. And then when we apply these textures, they'll apply to all the meshes appropriately, according to however it was UV mapped when they made the model. That's nice looking. Let's see. We've got a metallic texture. We've got a roughness map. We've got the normal map. And we've got ambient occlusion. Boom. Okay, I'm not seeing any of that, what looked like it might be Z fighting. I'm not seeing any of that at all. So that must be just a defect of the way that shaded mode of rendering works in CC4, because yeah, this looks fantastic. Okay. So, without any more delay, let's kind of position this for a nice thumbnail shot. And that looks great. Alright, so we've got the antique desk. It's positioned nicely. The scaling worked well, I believe. I'm actually not sure about that. I should have loaded in a character before I did any of these. We're going to go ahead and take a chance here and save this and hope that it's scaled right. If not, not a big deal to fix that later. But before we do the next prop, we are going to bring in a character for sizing reference. Okay, so we're going to save this. Let's copy our description here. I'm going to save it as Antique Desk, and we'll just put it under props. All right. Get rid of that. What else we got here? All right, we got... Oh, yeah. The room we're going to save for last, because that's the most complex model. So this is... It's labeled... This was labeled in Sketchfab as a board game box. But I was looking for something that is specifically looks like the types of product boxes that Commodore 64 games used to be sold in. I bought a number of them back in the day. Mostly Infocom titles. Zork and the like. Those were my favorite type of game. Okay, I didn't follow my own rule here. Let's get rid of this. We're going to load in a character real quick. Character. Clothed. Now let's bring in Camilla. It's handy to do this before you bring in props, just so you've got some sizing reference. And we'll test our other props that we brought in. We'll test those and make sure that they're sized okay. So here's the pandemic box. That's what they called it. And yeah, that's slightly out of scale. Wowzers. Okay. So we're going to scale this down to probably 10% of what it is. That's pretty close. Let's do some rotation, get it facing the right way. We want it 90 degrees this way. That's actually all we'll need. And then let's just pick pick it up here and get it next to her. We'll bring it up. Same level as her. All right, that's a little bit big. These boxes were about the size of a hardcover book. This is slightly bigger than that. Looks pretty good. I don't think it has any shaders at all. It's just the one texture. We'll check that to be sure. But that's gonna. I think that's gonna work fine for this. We can just. There's a default roughness map that gets put in there that we can do. So, all right. So let's scale it down. That's about the right size. Maybe a little bigger. All right. So, let's hide Camilla. And let's put this right at the origin. Okay. We're going to hit reset scale. That's going to kind of bake our sizing into it. And I don't think reset transform is going to help us here. Okay. So again, this is something that I'll come back and custom texture using some images of an actual product map or a product box for one of those vintage games, maybe more than one of them, and we'll stack those on the desk. Again, the interest is just to kind of personalize things. So let's rename this 1980s game product box. We'll name it that. That should make it easy for me to search for later. Go to custom content and under props. And oh, we didn't check the textures. Let's check and see what textures they even gave us here. Okay, it's just the one. That's fine. So, how's the shininess on this? Wouldn't be awful if it was a little bit more glossy. So, I think we can adjust that. With this. I think if we make the roughness map a little darker. Yeah. It makes the light bounce off it just a little bit more, which is what we want. Yeah, I like it. Okay, so copy that. We're going to save this as 1980s game product box. All right, and again, I'll just come back and oh, wait a minute. I may have messed up there. Did I save that as a character? I did. Okay, here's why. Even though she's not visible, I've got a character loaded in here. And because I didn't have this prop selected when I hit save, it saved the character by default. So I'm just going to delete this that it saved under character. All right, and then we're going to go down here again to props. We're going to select the prop, and then we're going to hit save. There we go. All right. So, our final prop for today's scene is the room. And this is a biggie. Well, the model itself is about 28 meg, which is pretty sizable. Okay, and it's got the textures really broken out. That's probably where our sizing is coming from. The file was a pretty big download. So I'm hoping this isn't going to overwhelm things. But let's give it a shot, because it's really a good-looking item. We do prop. We'll just give it a minute to import. Object contains 50 meshes. Yeah, we're going to break them into subprops because I think that will make it easier to hide specific objects and things like that, or even remove them from the scene. So we're going to say yes on that. Okay, and then let's hit home. And wow, the scaling must be enormous on this thing, because home couldn't quite cut it. Why don't we bring in Camilla? Okay, yeah. It's a little bit large. Those are good looking plants, although it seems like they're identical meshes. Yeah. They're identical meshes, which, okay. Alright, so we need to select this thing and we need to scale it down to where it looks like a room that she would actually be in. Let's grab a home shot of her. I know her feet are through the floor. We can fix that here real quick. Yeah, that's fine. Okay. That looks pretty close to the right scale, doesn't it? Okay, you figure she's probably 5'6", and the ceiling here is probably 8 foot high, so maybe we need to scale it up just a little bit more. Just a little. Okay, so the back of her knee comes to about here. Why don't we have her sit? Let's give her a sit animation. Maybe that'll help us better size things up here. Pose. We need to go into the main folder for that. Animations. Pose. Female. Is there one where she's sitting normal? There we go. Sitting bench. Okay. That looks like it's right, but let's move her actually into position here and see. Yeah. That looks right, doesn't it? Yeah, I think that's the right scale. Alright, so we'll hide her from the scene and let's get some real textures in here. I guess on the plant they didn't use a texture, they just used some kind of a native coloring on the mesh. I don't know how else to explain why only those colors loaded in. I think those are the... There's probably a proper term for it that I don't know, but... Okay. So, we've got... Oh my, that's a lot of meshes. Okay, but if we look at the material name, that should clue us in as to which texture goes where. So let's take a look at our textures here. I don't know why this is in there. Is that like an avatar or something of the designer? Oh, maybe they're photos for the pictures on the wall. That's probably what those are. Okay. So, let's get a little bit different view here. So we've got fabric, we've got ground, marble, plaster, a couple different wood ones. There's something with, looks like Cyrillic alphabet there. That's probably one of the photo images, perhaps. We've got fabric, ground. Okay, so fabric, ground, marble, plaster, wood. Wood flower. Okay, that's the tree. And I don't see textures for that. So I think we're right. I think the plant stuff is just meant to have that coloring there. Okay. Plaster. I know I saw plaster in here. Normal and roughness for plaster. Oh. I screwed up there. Base color right there. Okay, so that's the wall. And then if we go to the normal map, okay, and the roughness. Okay, that's a good looking wall. All right, what else we got here? There's one here that's just named material. Don't know what that is. We'll come back to it. Wood floor. I know we saw a texture for that. Wood floor. So we got color, normal, and roughness for wood floor. That's probably the only mesh for that. All right, so wood floor, base color. And the normal map. Oh, where'd you go? If it's okay, I'm going to move this out from in front of the screen here. It makes it a little bit easier to... I know you can't see the folder anymore, but you get the idea of what I'm doing here, right? And then we've got roughness. Makes it a little shinier. Good. Okay. We've got wood here, 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 here. These are all planes. So probably related to the shelves, I'm guessing. Although metal might be that too. There's another, oh, cube wood. But there's only one set of wood textures, one set of wood shaders. So we're going to assume that they all get the same thing. Alright, so we've got all the wood materials selected. And now let's bring over wood color. These are nice sized textures, by the way. They're like 2K each, 2K resolution. So it's applying it to all of those. Alright, so that's the baseboards, it looks like, the shelves, and the frames of these pictures. For all that wood. So we'll bring in its normal map. And we'll bring in its roughness map. By the way, if my camera cuts out every once in a while, sometimes this camera, for some reason, when I'm doing certain heavier operations in Character Creator or iClone, it somehow the computer can't also handle doing the camera. So if the camera blacks out, I apologize, but I think all in all, I'll keep it on until it starts doing that really regularly. Okay, so there's the textures for that wood. Let's go back up here to where we first encountered wood. Plastic. Do we have a texture for plastic? We do not. That's interesting. So we'll have to figure out what the plastic is. Display. Display does not have a named item, so it's going to be one of those strangely named ones. Wood we did. Picture 1, picture 2. Those don't have named textures, so we'll come back to those. Carpet. Nothing for carpet. Yeah. So maybe we just have to color that, or we could texture the carpet ourselves. Fabric. There we go. Fabric 01. There's 2 different fabrics here. Let's take a look at what they are and see if we can figure out which is which. So one of these is definitely for the sofa, and there's another fabric. Maybe the second fabric is for the pillows. That's my guess. One of my lights is battery powered, and this is apparently all it can handle. But I think the one light works just fine. Yeah, that's better. That's actually fine, because that one little light up there, it's LEDs, but it's very bright and it's like right in my eyes. Okay, so this kind of seems like it has a texture that is slatted diagonally. And the other fabric is more like this. So here's what I'm going to guess. I'm going to guess that this fabric is for the sofa and the others are for the pillows. So fabric 30 we're going to put on the sofa. Okay, let's try it out. Ah, and the cushions too. We may have to figure out what to do about them, but this definitely feels right for that. Then we've got a normal map. We've got a roughness map. We've got a displacement map. That's not very common in props that I've worked with, but we do have a slot for that here. Displacement. And we're going to assume, okay, this is a grayscale image. We're going to assume this is a height map. Hello! That's crazy. That's kind of cool, but it doesn't make any sense. This is the Game of Thrones sofa, right? It's made out of shards of gray glass. So let's see if we can tame this, and if not, we'll just leave it out, because I think it's going to be fine without. So if we make this... Okay, brighter makes it... Man, that's kind of cool. Yeah. I don't think this thing's going to be helpful to us. If we put it back at 0 and we adjust the softness. Still too intense. So I don't fully understand the best way to implement displacement maps. Hey, Blue. And hey, Phil. Thanks for coming again. Yeah, this displacement map is, when I put it on by default, I was saying this looks like the Game of Thrones sofa here, made of shards of glass. So I'm going to make a note to myself. I need to learn a little bit about displacement maps and how they work. But for now, I feel like that this sofa looks just fine without it. It does already have a normal map. So certainly for our purposes, that's going to work fine without it. What else we got for this? That's it. Those are the 4 textures for this. And we're leaving the displacement map out. Okay. A little bit of Z fighting going on there. I think I know how to fix that. All right, so Fabric 1 and Fabric 2. Let's see if we can figure out which is which here. All right, so there's one pillow there. And, oh, I selected Fabric 2. Fabric 1 is what? The cushions. Okay. So do we make the cushions the same as the base of the sofa or the same as the pillows? I'm kind of thinking maybe the pillows makes more sense. We can try, I guess. Whatever. So this is the cushions. You recently beat the ultimate Doom on an ultraviolet. Wow. Favorite level. You're thinking, are you referring specifically to episode 4, the extra pack there? I can't remember them by name, but there's one that you start out just on a ledge, and then there's this chasm, and you just this huge level that goes back in there, and there's at least one cyber demon near the end. I can't remember what the name of that level is, but I always like that one, even though it totally kicks my ass. But yeah, I mean, I feel like those 4 levels are some of the hardest stuff. Harder than anything in the first 3 episodes of Doom. Favorite Doom episode, or favorite Doom map overall? Yeah, I don't know. I think it would be one of those special ones. Probably the one that I have a special connection to is the very first map of episode 4. There's that secret that you can unveil that shows the 9 Inch Nails logo in that one room. That blew my mind. Of course, this is before internet was much of anything. But yeah, I was pretty thrilled by that, because I'd already heard rumors that the guys who made Doom that Trent was a fan, or they were a fan of his. I can't remember which it was. And of course, he ended up doing the soundtrack for Quake not too long after that. So Doom 2 is fantastic. Doom 2, my favorite level is Downtown. That's kind of the first major one where you're actually on an Earth level. I don't know level design-wise if it really is the best design in the world, and it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, I guess. But I loved it. That was my favorite map to play. Single player or deathmatch. Me and my friend Craig used to play over modem, and that was definitely our favorite. Nice big wide open areas, lots of long hallways and stuff. Okay. So Fabric 2. Or no, we're still on Fabric 1. Let's try the cushions with the second fabric and see what we think. Yeah, that's a hard pass. That doesn't feel right at all. Let's do the same texture as the okay. Hey, Darth, how are you? Thanks for stopping by. Sorry I couldn't hang around very long last night. Your stream is actually on my calendar. A weekly thing on my calendar. And I've only managed to make it like, what, 2 or 3 times? It's kind of right on the border of when I'm typically finishing work and under some pressure to get home, so... But I enjoy it when I get to stop by. It's nice. Okay, so we're going to skip the displacement map. Thanks to that debacle last time, and we're just going to go with roughness and the normal map. Yeah, Blue. TNT and Plutonia, they never really caught me. Like, I'm in the same place, and of course I played them decades ago. But when I went and did a replay through all of Doom, I don't know, just a few years ago, and I got to those, and it was kind of a slog. There was something not quite at the same level as the more traditional ones. And then there's the master levels of Doom. Did you ever experiment with that? There's a lot of user-made stuff. There's some real gems in there, but there's also, in my opinion, some real stinkers too. So, but it's worth some attention. I don't know if that's part of the big, like, didn't id make like a they repackaged to where you could buy like all the old Doom games and all the levels and stuff all at once, and I think that's included with it, but I just didn't find those as quite as intriguing. There were some really interesting user-made levels over the years that I can't remember the names of anymore, which is a shame, but they were very engaging. Okay, so we've got normal map. Those cushions look all right. And a roughness map. And this has a displacement map too. Should we give it a try? Let's give the displacement map a try. It's not like we can't undo it. Oh, yes! Ha ha! The couch of death. I love it. Although maybe they're fluffy. Maybe they're fluffy. I choose to assume that they're made of like little death swords or something. So no displacement map. The pillows. Come on. It's kind of freezing up on me here. What's going on? We want to... Why won't it let me delete that, I wonder? Let's do undo. How about that? There we go. Okay. So that's our sofa sorted. Let's continue on through the list here. We've already taken care of all the woods. We do have metal here. Is that the first metal? Is there a way to sort that? There is. How stupid am I? Alright, so let's do ground. Oh, man. The eternal new guy. That's a weird place for that. Ground? That's a really weird place for that texture. And there's supposedly a sphere. somewhere. You think that stretching of it is... See how it's... Is that by design, you think? I guess so. It looks better in close-up, doesn't it? And this must be by design? It's a weird choice. Let's put the rest of the shaders in and see what we get. Pretty active. Normal map there. Kind of chunky. Alright, and a roughness texture here. Oh! It keeps, that's weird. When I have it sorted like this, it kind of loses focus there when I drag in a texture. Yeah, it does, doesn't it? It looks like an accident. I'm wondering, though, if it's by design. Alrighty then. Oh, we just accidentally clicked on Invisible Camilla. Alright, that's the ground texture. Now we've got metal. There's also a marble texture here, but there's no marble material. Where would marble go? Okay. So we've got... Oh, wait a minute. There is no metal texture. So I guess it's white metal. Or black metal. You see what I did there? Okay. Yeah, that's bewildering. They didn't provide a texture for the metal. There's a material here named peeper, or misspelled pepper, and there's nothing like that in the list. Wonder what these are. Let's see. They're colored like this. Oh, paper. Paper. It's the bindings of the book, or the visible pages in the books. Okay, fair enough. Picture. We already took care of plaster. That's the wall. We already took care of wood and wood floor. Wood flower we've determined isn't to be colored. So, what are our curtains here? That's a fabric 02 that somehow did not get a texture. Probably just lost this before I started sorting. So we're going to use the same texture as the pillows. Not a choice I would make, but there you go. The normal level in TNT called Metal, and it has the best track of the whole game, probably. Could be watching the Marble Channel on TV, that's right. Do you know, Blue, did the same guy that did the music for Doom, Bobby Prince, did he do the music for Plutonia and TNT, or was that someone else who did the MIDI music for those? I'm not at all sure. Okay, so we've got a few things left here. Flower pots are probably... Okay, those say plaster. But it's plaster 02. There is no plaster 02 texture, so we'll probably just solid color those. Like we could do We could give them like a traditional clay texture, I suppose. Yeah, we can play around with that. And this thing doesn't have any texture. Metal. Okay, so those are ones that we'll either have to texture ourselves or we'll have to color. These are probably metal too. Yeah. How about this entertainment center thing? Wood. Okay, and there is a second wood texture here. So let's just select all the woods. Cubes and planes, because the wood floors are separate. And let's bring in, I don't think we've brought in this texture yet, not to all of them. It was done by Team TNT. I'm not sure how much I paid attention to the music in TNT. I loved the Doom music, but at least when I played through it, like when I was like really interested in doing well, I tended to play with the music off so that I could, I don't know, it derailed my focus. When I played through it again a few years ago, I had the music on because then it was just about the fun of it and nothing else. All right, we got a normal map for the woods. There's like all. Oh, do I not have everything selected? I did. We may have to individually check these wood ones because I'm not confident it's getting applied properly. And we've got a roughness map. There we go. Nothing gold can stay. All right, let's check our woods. Yeah, they're all applied. Okay. I'm assuming these parts are metal? Yeah. This is carpet. We don't have a texture for that. What about the book covers? Okay, so there's book 01. Let's see what other... Okay, so there's book 1, book 2. There's nothing named like that in here. However, if we look at the thumbnails, it's going to be pretty apparent what's what, I believe. So clearly that's a book. And there's another one. Interesting design. All right, so I guess we can pick which is book 1 and book 2. So let's do that. Book 1. Go ahead and make that the red. Oh, Plutonia, they just reused stuff from Doom 1. Yeah, like I think you referenced, there were some hasty decisions made at that late stage of trying to figure out how to package and repackage Doom, and I don't begrudge them that, you know. They got to make their money the way they need to, but
a bear might rip your head off, but he won't tell you that you're fat.
Okay, the books look great. The books look really great. What are these? Plastic. Okay, so I can just adjust the color on those. They don't really need shaders, I suppose. The other images that we have, there's one that's that looks approximately 16 by 9 format. And then we got two cat pictures. Well, a cat and a dog pictures. So... And the TV... Oh, I bet you the TV screen is this thing. So what is this supposed to be? What is that? That's the one that says plain material. Is it a window? No. Oh, wait. So that must be this. Yeah, and there is a window there. How weird. A little bit of a mess there. But there's clearly a portal that's supposed to be a window here. Material, plastic. No, it's got the whole thing selected there. Huh. Well, that could be a problem. Because I really would prefer there to be an actual window there. But that doesn't seem to be a separate mesh. So we're probably going to need to do a little extra work here to get us a serviceable window. The window being there, that was a big selling point of this prop here. No, they didn't just turn red, I don't think. Because we haven't applied any shaders to them at all. They were just... Yeah, I think they've been red all along. They look like something that would be in a kid's room, though. It's a strange choice. Okay, so the TV screen is display. Let's bring this one over. Okay. That's fine. We'll put something else on that, I'm sure. Actually, for the purposes of our shot, when we go to do it, we'll probably just make it like the TV is off, because we want the focus on our other screen that's going to be visible. And then here we've got the cat and the dog. All right. So yeah, we've got some issues. Got a few things that we'll need to color and recolor. We really need a texture for this rug. We need to colorize this or texture this. Something shiny. I'm thinking like, maybe like almost chrome, maybe? And then, I don't know what's going on with the window. But it's not a separate mesh. It doesn't appear. Yeah, after doing all this, it's like, okay, I've now reached something that I'm not going to be able to fix in Character Creator 4. Yeah, they clearly made a window portal there. It's not nearly big enough, but they made it. I'm probably going to have to bring this into Blender to do that. Or scrap it and just build my own scene. You know, I could extract certain props from this if I liked them. There's nothing super special about them. The books are pretty nice. Although there's, you know, repetition. It's kind of a shame that they're linked, isn't it? So yeah, sometimes Sketchfab works as a time saver, and sometimes it gives you more stuff to do than not. So yeah, let's bring in Camilla one more time. Her dress doesn't like that pose, does it? Although maybe it's a, you know, physics thing. Like if it's got soft cloth, it'll probably fall where it's supposed to or something. Okay, so yeah, all things considered, because ultimately what I wanted was a window that would actually be just open, or maybe even with crossbars, but something that I could then position a background behind it. And out of the box, doesn't look like this is going to do this. Yeah, that you talk about that, the shimmering geometry, you talk about the Z fighting there. Yeah, it's basically just that there are two planes, you know, occupying the same space. And yeah. The nice thing is that when great care is taken when someone's modeling, you avoid that. But you know, you figure Sketchfab is okay, so there's probably, I'm sure there's some people on there that do this professionally, but Sketchfab is, a lot of times, is people that are just learning how to do this. Very often they're listing their stuff for free, which this one was. So, you know, not a great deal of incentive to, like, you know, someone could never get away with, I would think, someone could never get away with plopping this into the Reallusion store, right? I would think that some kind of, I don't know how that process works actually, but is there some kind of QA, quality assurance, on stuff that goes in the store? Do they review everything that somebody submits before it gets put out there? I would like to think so, but I'm not really sure. I haven't signed up for that because I don't really create stuff that's appropriate for that. I'd like to. I'm actually thinking about picking up, there's a program called Marvelous Designer. Have you guys heard of that one? It's basically, it's designed specifically for making clothing with the physics and all that stuff. And yeah, it's pretty slick. And Freedom 3D, who does a lot of tutorials for iClone and CC4 and stuff, kind of demonstrated the workflow on that just very quickly and got fairly decent results in very little time. So, like, it's accessible a process enough to where I thought, hey, I could do that. And I'm not 3D artist guy at all, but it automates a lot of the trickier bits of that. And so yeah, there's some scenarios that I've got in mind where it may just make more sense for me to design stuff myself. I think the software is like $300, which is not nothing, but you know, you buy a lot of clothing content, you can get to that total pretty quickly, right? I would love to have, like, just, it'd be cool if there was like somebody on my team who just, you know, loved spending hours slogging on that for absolutely nothing. That doesn't seem like that's not a lot of people waiting in line to do that nowadays. And, you know, and fair enough, right? I've thought about approaching some people in the content store, in the marketplace, who have stuff along the lines of what I like, and trying to work out some kind of arrangement with them that doesn't break the bank, but also makes them fairly compensated. That's tough to negotiate, you know, when you don't have a stack of money to throw at it. It's a challenge. So that software may be an interesting thing. If I pick that up, I'm definitely going to do some tutorials on it once I figure it out. All right, so I think for now, I'm not even going to bother saving this as a prop. It's not usable in its current form, so we're just going to save this as a CC4 project so I can return to it later. Room needing work. Is that specific enough? All right, well, we can still build the foreground part of our scene without worrying about this. So, let's go over to iClone. And we've already got a new project going, so we're going to go to Custom and Props. And let's bring in our desk. Right. Okay. So, assuming this is the angle that the camera will take, I'm kind of assuming this sort of angle for the desk. And then we're going to bring in our C64. I actually saved a version of the Commodore 64 model here as like at its default scaling, which is like the size of a large building, basically, compared to the CC4 characters. Just because I thought, well, what if I want to go really up close? And I'm not going to end up using it. We'll just use this. The detail on this one is just fine. So let's bring this in here and see if we can get it positioned on the desk. All right. Bring her up. Get the vertical out of the way first. Okay. And like so. You know, just like when I had a Commodore 64 with this big monitor, depth on the desk was always an issue. Yeah. This is very realistic. It's bringing back traumatic memories. So we're going to have some cords that are kind of hanging off here. But again, as I mentioned earlier, if I position the camera right, we're not going to see any of that nonsense. So we should be fine. There's a cable right there. That's unfortunate. There we go. Okay, and okay. What do we hold? Control here to get slower zoom? There we go. We actually don't need the full 1541. Anyone who knows what that is will know what it is from that. Now there is a texture problem right there on this model, I just noticed. So we're going to do this like so. So see, there's not that much of the background that's even going to be visible. So I don't know what I was worrying about with that gigantic room. I should just do a still image here, right? I forgot how big this thing is. And it needs to be readable, is the thing. If you weren't here at the very beginning of the stream, so here's what we're working on today. This is the intro screen for my stream. And we're setting up the main scene that we'll display there, but where the content is going to be is I've got myself a C64 emulator, and I'm going to take in OBS, like for the live projection on the stream, it's going to take a picture of that emulator screen, crop it appropriately, and then 3D transform it to where it's on the screen here. And the agenda for the day for streaming will appear in authentic C64, basic text. And actually, I'm going to write the little simple routine that displays that in C64 Basic, which is where I first learned how to use computers. So it's a little bit more effort on the setup, but basically all it'll end up meaning is once all that's in place and ready to go, all I'll have to do is go into the source code of the Basic and just update the agenda for the day, which that's easier than typing it in titles in OBS or somewhere like that. So, and then you just run the program and everything will already be positioned and fixed and all that. So it's a little bit nuts, but I'm kind of in a very nerdy way excited about it. I think I just lost you guys. Did I lose you? That was weird. If anyone's still there in chat, can you drop me a little hello to make sure you're still there? Okay, good. My browser on the PC that I'm projecting from, my Chrome crashed. And like for a moment, everything like froze up so I wasn't even sure if I'm still going out. So, okay. Okay, so just the camera went blank. All right, so let's create a camera. Just call it camera, that's fine. Lock camera view. There's not even really a whole lot of room for extra props, but I'm thinking like the game and the disc. The game box and the disc will sit over here. So let's try positioning those. If we go back into preview. And I'm just gonna nix the camera here for a bit because, yeah. When I'm moving around in iClone, it seems to pretty reliably. Let's try it again. Yeah. Okay. Quality entertainment right there. I'm turning off the camera. We'll come back to that later if it's appropriate. Okay. So, let's bring in our floppy disk. Okay, we'll just let that hover there right now. And we want the product box. I think I called that 1980s. Yeah, 1980s game product box. So something like so, and then we'll rotate. Let's go ahead and put this in the middle. My face looks a bit fuzzy. Yeah, that's not the camera. That's just my face. Okay. All right. So -180. Yeah, perfect. So this box will be sitting here. Actually, we need to see our mini viewport right here. So we can see what's Okay, so the game, let's get it vertically positioned. I should probably at some point learn the shortcut keys for alternating between the transform tools, shouldn't I? It's ridiculous I keep having to go up here to do it. So let's see. It doesn't say what they are here. They aren't the same as they are in Blender, are they? No. All right, I'll learn those later, or if one of you wants to inform me, I will learn them now. Okay. So yeah, this will be right here. Nice and readable. I'm not too worried about the extra shine there because we haven't done lighting yet. And then we're also going to have a floppy disk. Yeah, let's position that in the middle too. The little pivot point. You never learned them either? Okay, I feel a lot better now. I didn't fully realize, Phil, until I read that article of Warlords yesterday, I hadn't really done the math of how long you've been using iClone. Pretty amazing. I still remember Haunter of the Dark very well, because I think, didn't Ricky Grove do something on that? Did he do some voiceover, or maybe did the sound for it or something? Yeah, apparently, yeah. Welcome to the club. Absolutely. But anyway, he's the one who called my attention to that, and then we did the premiere for it and stuff, I think. I don't remember if the premiere was like in Second Life, if we were doing them back then or not, but yeah, that movie was great. Okay, this, I'm not going to have to worry about the label on this disc. It's not going to be readable. So I guess that saves me a little trouble. Although maybe I'll end up doing some stills of this at some point or something.
Not everybody is vegetarian. Not everybody.
All right, so I could do one disc here, and then why don't we do one more that we'll see maybe sitting underneath these chords? Can we pull that off? Is it thin enough? Ooh. Is it clipping through them? It kind of looks like it's clipping through them. Let's get in real close here. Oh! No, don't do that. Okay. That may look a little too flat. Alright, let's see it from the actual angle. Yeah, you can tell the cord is going into it. It's a nice thought, but I don't think it quite works when it's under the cords. So, just move it to where it's not. Maybe just like right next to the cords. Like so. Yeah. So I'll be able to do some nice box art on this, and I'll be able to at least give the appearance of the old-fashioned handmade disc labels. But what's written on it isn't going to be visible, I don't think. Not terribly important. All right, and then, yeah, the overlay will 3D transform the actual C64 screen on here. All keyframed. Man, that's a lot of work. Okay, we're going to save this scene. And I've got an idea for our backdrop, since the room ended up not working out real well. So we're going to call this ZSO Stream Intro C64. Okay. Bear with me a second here, as I'm going to track down an image. I don't think I already downloaded it, so give me just a sec here, and we will get that image. Let's see. It's going to be in here. It doesn't have a window, but this is a nice looking image. So we'll save that in this folder. Boom. Okay. Oh, you're working on air now. That's cool. Okay, so there's our image. So let's get into preview. And we need a 2D backdrop. Which is gonna be, I think it's under stage. I can never remember if these 2D background things are actual positionable items or not. I guess we'll find out. So we drag this in here. Okay, good. No, it's not. Okay. What is it that I'm wanting? I guess a... What's the easiest thing to do here? Is it just a primitive? Oh, the webcam keeps turning off again? Okay. There we go. I always blank on this for some reason. I suppose it could be a wall. It could be an image plane. Is that what I'm looking for? Okay. That'll do. Yeah, the desk is awesome. I was really happy to find that. That's a Sketchfab model as well. Free one. Attribution required, of course, which I documented all that stuff down. All right, so it's a little bit, it looks a little bit distorted, probably because the aspect ratio. Yeah, that looks more like the original image. Okay, so we want to position this so it's behind our scene. I think it needs to come up some. Okay, so let's get in our camera view here and see if we can position this in a way that makes sense. Okay, that's the edge of the picture there. So something like so. But here's the thing. I think I'll want to FOV blur this, so that means I really need to make sure that there's... Okay, there is some distance. So I can probably do it then. So if we go to camera... And remember, this is the viewing port here. We don't need this anymore. Oh, really? So you can just drag the image right onto the screen. It'll create a prop, and it honors the aspect ratio of the image? That's very handy to know. That's a good tip. Thank you, Phil. Okay, so let's just experiment with depth of field. Pick target. We want this. Gonna give a little bit more perfect focus range. Let's do view the regions. Shouldn't have messed with that. That's probably that's done by picking the target. What is it that I'm looking to fix? Bar transition. Yeah, that's actually okay, I think. Because I think when we render, if we choose the high quality depth of field, I think it'll look even better than this. Who knows? Maybe not, because this is just a flat image. So it can only work with that. Worst case, if I'm not getting a render out of this that I'm happy with, I'll turn off depth of field. And then I'll go and just blur the image in Photoshop or something and bring it back in. So that's plan B there. Not going to worry too much about it right now, but because we've still got to, you know, we're not ready to do a final render yet. We got to retexture these things. Yeah. Doesn't look half bad without it blurred. I just really don't. I don't want the book titles to. Well, none of the book titles are really. Can you read those? Yeah, I'd like to blur it just a tad. So what we're going to do is just, again, sorry for the recap, but just in case, I covered this right at the beginning of the stream, so just in case you weren't here, there is such a thing called a C64 emulator. So this screen in OBS, it's going to be a live thing, will be 3D transformed to fit in there. And I'm going to have to do some fidgeting with it to kind of maybe try and round the edges and stuff to where it looks like it fits there. Or might even have to do a mask based on the dimensions of the screen here. But you get the idea. This will be turned so it's at a little bit of an angle. And then the C64 readout is going to actually show the agenda for the stream of the day. And that comprises our intro. Now, the only other thing is, I just noticed that we lost sight of our 1541 here. So can I bring that back in here? Yeah, you know, I think that's a good trade-off. I lose a little bit of the top of the screen, but I gain seeing that thing in the bottom left corner. And again, I can crop things and mask it accordingly in OBS. There's no information that's important that we've lost at the very top of the screen. Like, I'll just make sure to position whatever, when I write the basic to display the agenda, it'll be down here where it's more readily visible. So yeah, I think that's going to work well. $86, is that a good emulator for the old IBM PCs? I had one of those in my dorm room. My roommate brought it with him. A hand-me-down from his dad. And yeah, we had the Amber monitor. And there's actually a plug-in, I think it's on Steam, that emulates old monitors, like old CRT monitors, adds some of that glow and that unique colorization and stuff to them, and does it on live video, which is pretty cool. It's a little bit pricey for what it does, so I haven't picked it up, but it's one I've got on the wish list to just keep an eye on. Yeah, 8086 is what we had. I'll close the stream today with a funny story about that IBM PC. So, like I said, my roommate in college, who he and I have been lifelong friends ever since, he got a hand-me-down 8086 PC with an Amber monitor, and we were kings of our little campus with that. I mean, not many people had a computer in their room. There was no internet aspect to it, of course. This is quite a while ago. And but his dad was a pastor, a preacher, and had worked his way up to be like a superintendent within the church where he was a pastor. And that's where they got the computer from. And they upgraded the dad's computer and let him keep the old one, so he gave it to his son for college. And so we had it there in the room. Well, we had roommates who liked to come in and help themselves to what we had. So they would just come in and take stuff out of the fridge, and they'd come in and play on my my Korg keyboard, and they'd come and fiddle around on the computer, just like raised in a barn rude, right? So it was my idea that, hey, we can put a password on the computer. We can put a BIOS password so that nobody can start it up except you and I. And he's like, oh, we could do that? I was like, yeah. He said, let's do it. So he says, well, what should we make the password? And so naturally, as a college freshman, my idea was, we'll make it penis. And he said, that's funny, but I don't really want to type that in every time I sit down and use the computer. It'll feel weird. I said, well, then let's do this. You just change a couple letters around, and the password to the computer will be Nepis. Nepis. So then you're not typing the word or feeling weird, but it'll be easy for us to remember what it is. So Nepis, that's it. He's like, great. So a couple months later, the computer was having trouble, needed service. And neither of us knew how to do anything like that. That's what I do for a living now, by the way. But back then, I didn't know what I was doing at all. And again, my only experience was with the Commodore 64. So it needed service. And so Craig tells his dad, hey, the computer's not working. So his dad sends, no, that's not my pin. I don't use I don't use that anymore, but it would be a very valid guess. So his dad sends a guy from the church district over, this deacon of the church, this very devout, upright, proper Christian guy. And so he comes to the room to work on the computer. And he fiddles with it a bit and gets it to boot. And then says, all right, what's the password? And my roommate just looks at me with daggers, as if to say, you son of a bitch. So he has to tell this guy, who's a friend of his dad and a real proper church guy. It's Nepis. I'm sorry, what? It's what? And so he has to repeat it again. Yeah, it's Nepis. And the look that this guy, his name was Eugene Figge. This is how much that memory imprinted on me. This man I only met that one time in my life. I remember his name. The look he gave Craig, and only Craig, my roommate, was this priestly disappointment, and just kind of shook his head, and clicked his teeth like that. Oh man, I don't think Craig has forgiven me for that yet to this day. We're still friends, of course, but yeah, it's a sore spot in the in the relationship. So, yeah, if you're gonna set a password, you don't want to do like George Costanza in Seinfeld, where he gives a password that then he's embarrassed to give to someone else when he needs to. So if you're ever going to have to tell anyone the password, yeah, don't pick Nepis. Pick something else. So anyway, thanks for joining me, and I'll keep you posted when we're doing the next stream. It's looking like Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday at this time, but we'll see. That seems to be working that worked last week. We'll see how it goes. But I'm enjoying this a lot, and at least getting something done. So, and now everyone knows my pin. So have a great day. We'll see you next time. Thanks again.